Hi guys, so what you were just hearing there was the Electro Harmonix Freeze Pedal. This has been part of my collection for about a year. It's been part of my pedal board ever since I bought it, both electric and acoustic. I predominantly use it for acoustic work. Hopefully you heard why just previously. But yeah, let's talk about what I use it for, how I use it and what it can do. So as always with me, a little story coming with this review. About 3 years ago, I was in Times Square. I went to the guitar centre that was there and went downstairs, was drooling over all the amazing equipment they have in that guitar centre. I think they've got Clapton's Blackie in there. I might be wrong. Anyway, I was drawn to a side room and a guy was playing a Strat into a clean amp, and it sounded like he was having a jam with a keyboard player. Turns out he wasn't jamming at all. He was using the Electro Harmonix Freeze Pedal as an undercurrent to give him a pedalled note whilst he noodled over the top of it. It sounded amazing. The way he was playing it was very Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, that kind of thing. And so from that point I was kind of hooked with it. Still took me a couple of years to actually buy one. They're quite expensive, even now. They're £115, I think. But I invested in one and stuck it on my acoustic pedal board. And ever since I've been just playing around with what it can do, really. And I find it can add a real sort of bonus to my live setup and my live sounds. So what does this pedal actually do? It depends how you use it. So let's have a look. At the top, you've got 3 selections. I'm not sure if you can see that, if the camera's actually going to focus on that. But if not, you've got 3 different settings: a fast, a slow, and a latch. And what that means is how quickly it's going to release it or if it's going to hold on to it. So if you're on fast, you hold that down with your foot whilst you're playing a note. It will sustain that note for as long as your foot's on there. You take it off, it comes straight off. The sound cuts straight off. If you've got it there on the slow setting, same principle. You play a note, you hit that thing down, but when you release your foot to stop the sound, it's a slower decay. So it gives you a bit of a chance to move on to something else. That's what you heard at the beginning of this video, by the way. And with the last one is latch. And what latch is, you play your note, you press the button down just once, and it will hold that note with your foot taken off it for as long as you want it to. To turn that off, you then do a double click and it turns it off. Sounds a little bit like this. So the last sound you just heard, some of you might have recognised it going into Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. So I tend to do that at the start of most of my gigs, especially if it's a new venue. I'll start with that pedalled note. It kind of gives it a nice sort of background noise type feel. Lets people know in the audience, in the crowd, at the bar, that there's music about to happen, which so it gets people's ears kind of tuned in a little bit. And Norwegian Wood's always a good one to kick off with, especially when I'm playing it in DADGAD. Again, turns people's ears a bit. So that's kind of how I use the freeze pedal for that. As you heard at the beginning of the video, I do a bit of the Pink Floyd thing. It also works really well for the Dire Straits thing. I'm using this very limitedly. I've seen people online use this very, very experimentally, doing amazing different things with it, and getting their timing spot on so they can pull out of one thing, go into another. All very, very impressive. Far too advanced for me. I use it as a very, very simple thing to give me that foundation to build on, and I love it. It always gets, it gives me a nice sound. It gives me some confidence playing over things. Solos sound more full. Very, very characteristic thing to have on a pedal board. But there are some cons to having this. So con number 1 is that it's all very well having those first 2 settings with the latches where you just take your foot off and that's all good. But I don't really use that. I use it for that third sustained forever thing as a pedalled note. So fine, click it on. To click it off, to get those 2 in a row, you've got to be quite precise getting those 2 in a row. If it's then it thinks that you're recording a new sound on top, and that can get very confusing, especially in a live situation. It just makes things a bit tricky. If they had a non-clicking button, I'm not a technical guy, if they had a button that didn't click, it's like that, and it was just a simple tap, yes, you'd have to do it twice, you'd have to get your timing right, but there would be no resistance, which I think is quite cool, would be quite cool. Another thing I think they could do is, well, by getting rid of that click, I've played in lots of venues, small pubs with tiled floors, and believe it or not, it might even come out on the audio, I'm not entirely sure. That is quite a high-pitched, recognisable, it's like having a metronome going, so people can hear you when you're clicking on and off. Yeah, so I'm not really a big fan of that. It kind of brings the wrong kind of attention. So anyway, if there was a button in there that was just a clean, no-clicky button, I won't click it again, that would be fantastic, but it's not. Con number 2 is that because it's on the board, there is a tendency to use it all the time. It's lots and lots and lots of fun. But like anything with looper pedals, with delays, with phasers, with tremolos, whatever effect you've got, there is a tendency to overuse it. And I found myself sometimes at gigs, just getting a bit experimental and maybe using it for 2 or 3 songs more than I should have. But that's just a self-discipline thing. That's not really Electro Harmonix' fault. But yeah, in terms of the build quality, it's it's solid. It's all made of metal. Like nothing's going to break on me soon. It's going to last a long time, and it's a really nice thing to have on my board, especially an acoustic board, which I'm not sure many people are using these for. So in summary, if you want to try something a little bit different for your acoustic or your electric guitar, pick up one of these, give them a try. They are lots and lots of fun, and they can come in useful. I've just managed to find 2 or 3 songs that they fit really, really well with. I'm sure I'm going to find lots more as I progress. Yeah, it's a nice thing to have. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for checking out this video, and feel free to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be doing some more pedal and gear reviews for you soon. Thanks very much.